The East Plain Peter Township. This meeting is also being offered virtually utilizing Zoom, which is a cloud-based platform for remote video and audio conferencing. The Zoom application is free to the public. The general public is therefore able to join the meeting by connection through the internet or by calling in by phone. The public is also able to observe the meeting on the township's YouTube channel. Please continue to check the township website calendar for any updates related to these public meetings. Agendas for these public meetings will also be available on the township's website. Please be reminded that this meeting is being video and audio recorded and posted to the township's YouTube channel for viewing. The meeting will now proceed with the chairman calling the meeting to order and identifying all members present in the meeting and those joining the meeting via Zoom. The chairman will then confirm those members joining by Zoom can be heard.
Still no record? Okay. So good evening and welcome to the Monday, February 10th, 2025 meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Demi, and I'm joined in the room by Supervisor Meyer, Supervisor Gallagher, Vice Chair Mike Thornton, and Roger Rutt is hopefully joining us soon via Zoom. He's out of town right now. So with that, we will please rise and join me in a pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming. There are agendas in the back of the room, and please sign in so that we know who is here. Got a bunch of items on our agenda we'll be moving through. I just do want to make one announcement. The Board of Supervisors did meet prior to this meeting in an executive session to discuss an item of potential litigation. So the first item on our agenda is public comment for any item that is not on the agenda. If you're here to talk about anything that's on the agenda, then just wait till that point. We also have the time at the end of the meeting. If you forgot something and would really like to have additional public comment, we do have some time at the end as well. So is there any public comment for non-agenda items tonight? Is there any comment received online?
No.
Okay. Our first order of business is item number 4. We have what we call our consent agenda. So the first item is 4A, which is approval of the February 10th Board of Supervisors meeting agenda. We have item 4B, approval of the minutes of the Monday, January 20th regular meeting. We have item 4C, the approval of the minutes of the Wednesday, January 29th forecast meeting. We have item D, offer of time extension for review and action, Rockville Parcel 5, number 24-22, 35 South Willowdale Road. The applicant's offering a time extension to May 2025 for township review and action. This is the second time extension for this application. We have item 4E, offer of time extension for review and action, Omar Fisher, number 24-19, 2008 Horseshoe Road. The applicant is offering a time extension to May 12th, 2025 for township review and action. This is the third time extension for this project. This project is currently on the agenda for the Tuesday, February 11th Planning Commission meeting. We also have item 4F, which is approval to pay invoices from all funds for a total of $665,457.01. And we've got 3 items of note. We've got $104,697.64 to the U.S. Treasury for reimbursement of excess interest. We have $49,802 to Morgan Stanley for the monthly pension contributions. And we have $40,719 to Susquehanna Municipal Trust for quarterly workers' compensation.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through F.
The motion by Mr. Gallagher, is there a second? Second by Mr. Meyer. Is there any board comment or public comment for any of these items? Hearing none, All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Motion passes.
Just have a note. Roger saying he's on Zoom.
You can Zoom or YouTube. Always go to the township website calendar and click the link. All right, so next item we've got, I'll come around to the front. Eric's not here. So we've got recognitions for service to the township. We're missing one of them tonight. We have Eric Hirsch, which we will get him this plaque, but Eric has been serving on our Emergency Services Committee. And he served from January 2021 to December 2024 in roles of vice chair from 2021 through 2023 and chairman from 2023 to 2024. So this is, we will get this to Mr. Eric Bergstrom. Thanks for his service to the township. Next, we have one presented to Mr. Dave. David, come on. This is in recognition of and grateful appreciation for outstanding service to East Lampeter Township, serving on the East Lampeter Township Emergency Services Committee as a committee member from January 2013 to December 2024, including serving as vice chair from January 2016 to January 2020 and as secretary from January 2020 to January 2022 for a total of 12 years of service, presented this 10th day of February 2025 by the Board of Supervisors of East Lampeter Township. And also an additional thanks to all your hard work as a member of Lafayette Fire Company, including serving as the chief. You and your family are commended for your many, many thousands of hours of service. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Officially and unofficially serving on the Emergency Service Committee. This is from 2013 until just the end of last year. But unofficially, I actually started with the committee in 2009. So we could almost say 15 years I was on that committee. And I think I've only missed 2 or 3 meetings at the most. So I was almost a perfect attendance. But thank you. Thank you very much.
We'll sign you back up in 2030.
Taking a different path now.
You've been with a few different supervisors. Myself on ESC. You were chair of ESC, or you were
I was alternate. Successfully always stayed as alternate.
someone else too during Dave's tenure?
Yeah.
I did. That's right. So yeah.
Thank you.
Dave,
Fill your box.
we have a box if you want it. All right, next up, we have recognition Daryl Cecil. Daryl, please come up. In recognition of and great appreciation for outstanding service to East Lampeter Township, serving on the East Lampeter Township Planning Commission as a commission member from January 1998, back in the 1900s, to November 2024, including as service as vice chair from January 2005 to January 2021, and as chairman from January 2021 to November 2024, for a total of almost 27 years of service, presented this 10th day of February 2025 by the Board of Supervisors of East Lampeter Township. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you, Daryl.
Just like Bob. Sure. Anyone Shannon here tonight?
My wife's there with me.
Thank you so much. So for our volunteers, Mr. Keynes, Mr. Bergstrom, Mr. Seasalts, thank you, but also your families. Your families are the ones who are waiting up for you at night while you're serving the township at another very long, important, but boring sometimes. Thank you very much.
We are now joined by Mr. Roger Rutt by Zoom. So we will move along to old business. Item 6A, we have the reinstatement and time extension of initially approved plan sheets number 24-13, 2100 Lincoln Highway East. Is there anyone here for this agenda?
Here for this agenda item. Reinstatement of the conditionally approved plan that you saw previously. The applicant is working with both PennDOT and the township on alignment of the Route 30 streetscape improvements along the frontage here, and of course, timing of those and timing of the sheets construction as well.
Yes, requesting a reinstatement of the conditionally approval of the plan and a time extension to record this. Deadline, Monday, May 12th. Is there a motion for this item?
Motion that we approve the reinstatement and time extension of the conditionally approved plan for sheets number 24-13 and 2100 Lincoln Highway East. With the new deadline of May 12th, 2025.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Thornton, a second by Mr. Gallagher. Is there any public comment or board comments? None, we'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed or abstentions? The ayes have it. Moving on to item 6B, reinstatement of conditional plan approval and time extension to record plan number 23-20 Dutch Wonderland Water Park Expansion 2249 Lincoln Highway East. Is there anyone for this item? Yes, sir. You'll come up and state your name for the record.
So my name is Rex Clark. I'm with Clark Surveying and Engineering. We represent Dutch Wonderland on their engineering project. I'm here with Tom Whittington, who is a representative from Dutch Wonderland. So the project that we're asking for, if there's questions, we have it conditionally approved back in September, if you all remember, and last year. The project was placed on hold by the owner temporarily. So that's where we were at then. And they want to continue to hold until the springtime. So that's why we're asking for is there any other questions for me or from certainly try and take a stab at it. Yeah.
Steps.
No, just that all of the prior conditions would still be in place for us.
Yes, we have a request for a reinstatement of the conditional approval with all the original conditions remaining in place with a new deadline of Monday, May 12th.
Thank you, Jim.
A motion by Mr. Meyer,
I'll second that.
second by Mr. Gallagher. Any public comment or board comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? The ayes have it. Next, we have item 6C, a request for a deferral of the subdivision process 24-30 Smucker 2715 Old Philadelphia Pike. Is there anyone? State your name for the record.
John Smucker's my name. So I've requested a deferral to Lake Township for subdivision and land development planning for an existing 8.3 acres tract of ground, and I plan to subdivide 6 acres of it at this point. The amount of land on this 8.3 acres that is in East San Pedro Township is about 7,100 square feet. So I'd like to call your attention and just give you an orientation to your first document. which has been colored up. This tract of ground is down there on the farm across from the Bird and Hand Hotel and Restaurant, which we call Homestead. And I've noted on there lots number 1, lots number 2, and lots number 3, which are referred to on the staff comments and on the subdivision plan. The red line is property lines, and lot number 1 currently is presently an 8.3 acre. You'll notice that yellow lines around lot 1 and a bit of attractive ground going out to Ronks Road, which is on lot number 3, is what's going to be subdivided. The portion of ground that is in East Lampeter Township is on your left-hand side, and I've noted that with the color blue. It sticks down there, a small triangular lot or piece of ground down there on the southwest corner. I've also noted by the green line, the municipal boundary. This tract of ground is bounded by 340 on the front and Ronks Road to the east. Staff has produced a narrative and review comments. And I want to step down through those comments and make some additional comments and provide information. And embedded in their note, in terms of their review, is a comment that in many of these cases, they would agree to a deferral, but in this case, they have some issues that they would like to address from a township and municipal perspective. So I'm going to work down through, we'll pick down through these documents one by one. Kind of keep them in the order in which I gave them to you, because that's the order in which I'm going to go down through. So staff suggested that there should be some additional existing conditions on this plan. And so I've gone through and asked and this is for you, Tara. That's your revised vision. I've gone through and added several small utility sheds that were not noted on the original plan. I thought they were fairly inconsequential, but they've now been noted on the subdivision plan, and you can see those on what I call lot number 2. You have a couple dark areas there that I have marked sheds, and so they are existing conditions that are now noted on the plan. The other thing that Tara called for was she wanted the farm lane that goes from farm lot 3 down onto lot 2 to be noted on the plan. So I've done that. And additionally, she wanted the land development plan that had been created for our bakery facility back in 2014, which utilized lot number 2 for shared parking. So if you would go to the second document, this is a copy of the land development plan. We created some shared parking on lot number 2. And we added some square footage and building to the bakery. You'll note the township line, of course. All property lines are usually noted in red. And so you'll see the interplay between lot number 2 and what I call the bakery lot, which is not part of the subdivision plan as proposed. It's just a lot that's adjacent. But Tara wanted the, excuse me, wanted the land development planning on lot 2 to be noted on the existing conditions subdivision plan, which has been done. I also want to point out on lot number 2 on this document, what I highlighted in yellow, which says about in the middle of the document, proposed drainage easement. And I will get to that later, but that in essence denotes the 100-year floodplain line that goes down through the property. Also, you'll notice a little bit of a, what I call a driveway or access from the bakery facility, the parking area, over onto lot 2. And I have a lot of black dots. That is an access area that we use to get from the bakery parking area to lot number 2 to access some of the parking. Now, as you notice on the plan, that wasn't part of the original land development plan presented to East San Pedro Township and approved. When we were constructing the bakery facility, we did not have enough space on that lot for storage of construction activity and material and equipment. So we created an aggregate, a stoned area, this large aggregate, 3-4 inch stones, down through the base, down through the swale, so that we can get from lot 2 to the bakery facility. It mirrors the grade. It doesn't provide any impediment for the passage of stormwater down through the property. The blue line is the swale or the ditch that goes down through the property that carries the rainwater. So when Laycock Township was giving its final approval to the as-built, I raised the question, do you mind if we keep that stone driveway, which gets us convenient access between the 2 lots? And they said, no, that's okay with us. So they approved the retention of that little driveway access. And it works out really well because as the parking lot fills up around the bakery building itself, we do need that extra parking over on the other side of the swale. And it's used many times by guests and our own staff. There was a note by staff that there was no formalized access and shared parking agreement between the parcel where the bakery is and the parcel of lot 2, which is owned by the same partnership. I can't find in any of my records that this was required, and I don't have any recollection that it was required.
John, did you ever ask East Lampeter Township if the access across the lots was approved?
I did not. I asked Laycock Township because it was in their township.
For the bakery. That's for East Lampeter Township.
Correct.
Laycock Township.
That's correct. Laycock Township deferred the land development planning for the bakery to East Lampeter. That was back in 2010, 2009, as we were working on these plans. So the East Lampeter Township zoning board decision in August of 2008 was pretty clear that off-lot parking spaces may not be claimed by more than one user. So they were pretty clear that if they gave a special exception for parking off-lot, even though it's owned by the same real estate company, but it's 2 parcels, that I can't claim on lot 2 multiple uses for that parking. So basically, via the zoning hearing board, it's constricted just to the uses on the bakery property, which we needed for that property. I want to comment on another comment, which is relative to the Village Inn parcel. So if you want to go to the next document, which is this one. And I talked to Claire about this. I met Claire and talked about the subdivision plan a couple of weeks ago. There was a comment that shared access of stormwater improvements between lot 1, which is the subdivided lot, and the village inn has never been approved. So what we're looking at in terms of this big picture is actually a land development plan that was filed with the township in the early 2000s. And it shows the placement of the ditch that runs down through, which is what carries the stormwater from property to property to property. That's the blue line. I explained that there's no interplay between the village and parcel and lot number 1, which is what I want to subdivide. And so I'm just providing photos. If you want to go to this photo here. It shows where lot 1 is, which comes off the farm, and basically the property line between lot 1 and the village inn parcel. And there's no connection. So I just wanted to show that, and I also wanted to show, in terms of her comments, that she noted about a notice of violation from East St. Peter has been sent relative to some pipes that I put in the ditch that may not be a permitted item. So I wanted to show you a picture of those pipes, which are strictly on the village parcels. I've engaged an engineer, and I made a note about this. That's going to study that situation. There's pipes that are in the swale, as well as I have a couple other little things I want to do around the village and property.
On this larger plan, because where the red line through the writing comes into the village inn parcel. You all can see this here. This short line comes. This piece to the north is the piece we're talking about in East Lampeter. So this is why I want clarification as to where that stormwater facility was located.
Yeah, it was a good question, good comment. And I just wanted to show some photos of how it actually is. There's no interplay between lot 1, which is essentially a cornfield, and the village inn parcel.
You say there's no interplay. What do you mean?
No connection. Yeah, no connection. You have a tree line going up through there. It's basically a cornfield year to year.
So, John, there is though a connection.
Okay. What would it be?
This area where you put in those pipes, this is now a driveway back here to this field and to this area, which is used for parking during your event.
Lot 1 is not used for parking. The farm behind lot 1 is used for parking. And sometimes those vehicles come out through and come out into, on the village inn property, but not from lot 1. It's from another parcel.
And you don't have
Wait,
functions on lot 1?
excuse me?
You don't have staff functions on lot 1?
Yeah. Lot 1 is a cornfield. I do have a maze. It's in it, and put up a sign, corn maze, that people can walk through as they wish. But there's no staff functions on lot 1. Usually from the rear of the bakery property. from lot 2. There's a entrance way from lot 2 that goes out into the fields.
Over the bridge that goes over the.
Yeah, yeah. They see from the bakery parking lot, the front area, they can see a sign that says corn maze, and then they can just walk back. So I just wanted to note that, well, I noted a notice of violation. Correct. I'm working at, I've engaged an engineer to do a study of that, as well as a couple other things that I want to do in the project. We'll get to a comment related to walkability of the town. And so if you want to take out this document here. 2005, 2004, actually, as George Desmond and I. George Desmond was my partner for many, many years. I don't know if you fellows know who he is, but he owned a lot of property around town, and I owned a lot of property around town, and we owned some together. But George and I, for many, many years, decades, were thinking about the growth and development of this historic village, and we created a list of what we were thinking about and how we wanted to do it. The items on our list was how are we going to move pedestrians around the town safely. And I've had conversations with the township over some years about this. But I wanted to show you this, which is a master plan that we came up with in 2005, which kind of laid in place how we wanted the pedestrians to move around town. So every time we've done a development project in town, we changed or developed our properties that are along the street, we've laid this planning into it. The most recent addition would have been with the bakery back in 2014-15, where we developed those pathways along the front and the plazas and worked at creating a walkability around the town. You can see that beyond what we had planned for in 2005, I have some red lines that are drawn, which go over to the property to the east. Some of that is in place. There's a short section that is not. But I want to continue to develop that as a more defined pedestrian way in the next year especially. And also you can see I have a dotted line that goes to the rear. So any development activity that's back there, which is in my mind strategically long-term, one of those places where I'd like to expand the village. So the connection would be with the pathways to go back there and get people from the back to the front and vice versa. On the back of this, you'll note that I put in a little narrative about vision for the town of Birmingham. You can read that later at your leisure. But in there, I talked about building architecture. I talked about landscape architecture. I talked about pedestrian ways, development of a town square and benches and planting areas, etc. So that gives you a little bit of a sense as to the vision behind what we were trying to do. And I'll continue to use this plan in the future, like I said. Note the connection to the family inn. This is the one that really is probably the next highest priority of pedestrian ways that I want to create. So from the family inn, making a connection across the swale over to the farmer's market, because there's way too much traffic, pedestrian traffic that walks on the berm of the road. So our priority is to try to get people off the shoulder of the road and to get them safely across the road. There's even a note on here about a crosswalk to go from the market property over to the bakery property. And that's turned out to be a tougher nut to crack than what I imagined. I thought we just strike lines across, but PennDOT has a lot to say about that. And I've had conversations with staff for years trying to get through that landline, so to speak. Staff commented that there are no frontage improvements shown on the plan. And to that, I would say this is a subdivision plan. This is not a land development plan. Point where there is land development proposed on subdivided lot number 1 or 2 or 3, all of which is in Laycock Township. I would imagine those items would be addressed by the planning commission supervisors at that point. On stormwater, I want to review the regional stormwater management plan, which is this document. I'm not going to go through, of course, but just to know that back in, you can see on the first page of that document, back in 1998, David Miller came up with a regional plan. You look back on the second page, regional plan for the expansion of stormwater throughout the Virgin area. So what George and I were trying to do was create a regional stormwater management plan that would serve as a detention basin for all the development projects that we wanted to do throughout the town in the years to come. So what David Miller's office was they looked at the drainage area, which is about 400 acres, and they came up with a plan where we would detain a lot of the water that comes out of that drainage area into a detention pond. And then we would sheet off directly water that would be stormwater that would be developed from our development projects, parking lots and buildings and so forth. And so that plan was approved by both East St. Peter and Laycock Townships back in 1999, I believe. And we've been using that plan every time we do a development. I don't agree with the comment from staff on the review that the regional facility no longer has capacity or meets the requirements of the regulations for new impervious areas. I think there are two things as it comes to stormwater management. One is peak rate detention. The other is infiltration. Managing the detention of peak flow rates is something that we all need to do. And infiltration is something that has more recently in the last 10 or 15 years, at least, come on the scene where a landowner or developer has to retain a certain amount of, and I don't know what it is exactly, 0 to 5 years rains or storms, and they have to retain it underground and let it infiltrate. That's why you see a lot of these parking lots that have these big stone beds. And that grabs the water from the parking area. And I've had to do some of that, which is fine. But that doesn't mean that the stormwater detention basin that I've created back there at the golf course is not getting the job done that it was designed to do. So if you look at this, you see a big blue circle up there in the woods. And that's our stormwater detention basin that was created. Document here is the parcel map. Yeah. So it basically shows you where the stormwater detention basin is, which is that big pond or lake, which is behind the golf course, mini golf course. So that basin catches runoff from lands that we wouldn't need to be concerned about. And it funnels them into that basin and then allows the water from our properties, parking lots and so forth, sheet off directly. And when you get down to the very end, according to David Miller's calculation, which is so that trail comes down through, that's what that blue line is. The yellow area that I've noted is the subdividable tract. And so the point where the analysis is the most important is at the very end, where they analyze the post and pre stormwater runoff. So David Miller put this together, and we've been using it now for a period of many years. And I think it would also apply in terms of peak rate runoff from the area that.
Well, it looks like you've addressed planning review items, stormwater item, everything else on the township's review letter that,
Yeah, I think that covered, I wanted to respond to some of the comments. My summary is that, oh, and by the way, yeah, I'll get to it. What's my case for the deferral? The case for the deferral is there's a very, very small portion of what's being subdivided is within the limits of East St. Peter Township. A very small portion, about 7,100 square feet. A dual track of planning and review by two townships, I think will add mountains and mountains of time and lots of engineering costs. Each township expects me to pay, the owner to pay their engineering costs. And I say, to what end? So in this case, I really consider a dual track, having to do it twice. Then the land development planning and subdivision planning, all that involves. It's to be a case of municipal overreach. I just don't think it's necessary. How do you resolve conflicts that might arise between the two townships? And the same rules that apply in one township, I think apply in the other. So I want to, this is my last document. You're aware of the rest. And there's a lot of history to that, and it is, if I can take a couple of minutes to go back and recap that history. Back in the early 2000s, with East St. Peter Township, then it created new zoning districts based on the comp plan. The new zoning district that it applied to Burdenhand was, I think, a general commercial. I don't know if you remember, Tara. General commercial. And as George and I looked at that zone, we just didn't like what it did. The town prior to that was C1 and C2. And so we began a discussion with Tara and other staff to say, hey, can't we do something a little bit different? Can't we create a village zone that is more in keeping with the historical nature of the town, that combines a lot of multiple uses, and can we keep things on a small scale? So I'm very happy, and I gave kudos to Tara a lot of times about this, that the BH zone that was created is a really innovative and just hit the nail right on the head in terms of the kinds of things that I was thinking about in terms of future growth and development of the town, and George as well. So I believe that was an act of 215, maybe 216? 2016 by the township. So, of course, on the other side of the line, then I still had the C1, which is not conducive to small town village development. So I began a process in 2018 with Laycock Township, which took 6 years. And I'm just happy to report, and this is the pink is the C1 land in Laycock Township that they completely rezoned to BH. And it's the mirror image of East San Peter Township zone. I gave them your zoning BH. And I said, this is really what we did in East San Peter across the line. Would you guys consider doing this? So from 2018 to 2024, you can see that they enacted it in June 17, 2024. Now you have the makings of a really, for the future, thinking out the next 50 or 100 years, you have the makings of a really good, solid, small town village feel for Vernon. So I'm really happy about that. So my point is the same rules apply in one township now as the other. And that would also be one of my arguments for saying, well, same rules apply. Why do two townships have to take a look? I think the staff and the boards in Lake Hawk Township are very competent. They do their reviews, you know, in a detailed kind of way, and I'm sure we'll look after the public interest as well as with East San Peter.
Mr. Smart,
And that's my argument. Any questions?
can you repeat the square footage that's in the township versus
I measured it all at about 7,100 square feet,
out of a 6 acre?
of about 6 to 6.5 acres.
Have you asked Lake Hawk to defer to us? If they would defer to us?
No, I didn't think about that. Theirs is the massive part of the equation. And I always viewed this as a Lake Hawk Township development, and I didn't go in with any subdivision or land development planning until we can get the zoning to be, you know, commensurate with East San Peter. So I wouldn't have wanted to go in with a subdivision plan or any land development planning with a C1 zone, because that's really not what I did.
Any other questions? Any comments from staff?
Yeah. So subdivision under the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code is land development, and therefore falls under the subdivision and land development regulations. Under those regulations, in both townships, is the requirement for roadway, sidewalks, and pedestrian improvements. So I think they should be shown on the plan. The plan was significantly lacking. This is a plan that will get recorded, that will supersede prior plans. This plan had significant issues with it. It still does not show on what I just received tonight, still does not show the vehicular access between the bakery and what is known as Lot 2 to Mr. Smucker.
But if we defer to Lake Hawk, wouldn't they have to?
So that's never been shown on a plan, not when the bakery was approved and not now.
You say vehicular access to lot 2.
Yes.
There's an
Referring to-
existing driveway that takes care of that.
There's an existing driveway that's never been on a recorded plan. There's an existing impervious that's never been on a recorded plan or taken into account through the stormwater facilities or calculations. There's interaction of parcels in East Lampeter with parcels in Lake Township. This is exactly the reason for regional planning. Right here. Lot 3, excuse me, is a major event lot from about mid-August until November 1st. There are major events held on this lot that affect the traffic on Route 340 into East Lampeter Township, all the way back to Birmingham Fire Company. This should be looked at a regional level. Mr. Smucker and I, we talked through this. We absolutely disagree with each other. I do not see the excessive overreach of government here. I see interest in both governments, and I see a need for regional planning.
So if I could summarize what I'm hearing, the events that are happening and the potential redevelopment of these lots will both send people, traffic, and stormwater into East Lampeter to deal with. We would like to see that those are dealt with. The other one I'm hearing is, I admire you for the long-term thinking of this. I love the total plan. The long-term, the numbers you're putting, you won't be here and I won't be here. And it'd be really good to have, even though those lots are under common ownership now, they may not be in 50 years or 25 years. So having those parking easements and stormwater easements recorded so that when we're all not here, we can look at a plan and know what goes where would be really helpful for the future folks who are going to sit in these chairs. So that's the other. So those are the two items. Is the impact will be in East Lampeter. There's items that need to be put in these plans for us and for Upper Lake Hawk for a generation.
Yeah, it always, in my response, is that when you do development in an adjacent township, it always affects if it's close. And I don't see this as any different than a lot of other situations where you have either East Lampeter doing development that greatly affects its surrounding neighbor township or vice versa. I think that as land development plans are looked at, whatever that might be, then that township, for example, here at Lake Hawk Township, will look at impacts, will look at the kinds of things that need to be done that I think will assist and aid in more of a regional look at it. I'm just saying, from East Lampeter Township's perspective, there's just a really, really small piece of land that's situated in your township. And I think that Lake Hawk will understand the activity that goes on and try to provide for,
These properties, which is East Lampeter. So lot one is an, or excuse me, lot
no, that's so read us something.
it's an access to lot two. Lot two has direct access to the bakery lot. Lot one has direct access. They all touch East Lampeter in some way, whether it is by pedestrians, because there are people walking from lot three to the other lots. There's parking on lot one.
No, that's a cornfield. Lot one's a cornfield at this point.
I've walked through it. I've run your races. I've walked through all of those lots.
Right. So.
To John, of adjacent townships and our cooperation with them, are there any examples of that would meet the same type of relief we're looking for here?
So East Lampeter has a comprehensive plan with Upper Lake Hawk Township and West Earl Township, and we review regional plans. We have not reviewed regional plans with Lake Hawk Township unless it's a major rezoning, like we did review the Bird in Hand rezoning, and we actually disagreed with it. We thought it went too far back, North Bronx Road. Because it was closer to Route 340. That was the intent of the Bird in Hand district, was to be along Route 340 and to enhance and keep that character, not to take it back into the farm.
Part of the issue is it's just such a unique boundary line that slices on a very busy road. To name one thing about it.
The traffic from lot one is designed this way, will empty out onto the state route, Bronx Road. And from there, they'll come to the intersection of 340 and Lawrence, which has a light to control the traffic. So we're dumping traffic out onto a state road. And then from there, it goes either way. To 340, it gets into a light. So there's infrastructure in place that'll help control the flow of traffic to lot one, which is that traffic will not come directly from that lot into East Lampeter.
Board members, do you have clarity on what the request is? Do you have any additional questions for staff or the applicant?
I just have a general question. A few times you mentioned that you drew shed as an example.
Yeah,
You have a professional engineer, Mr. Fry, correct?
yes.
Are you planning on just drawing things in, or is that?
No, it's that.
Yeah,
It's part of the revised plan.
okay, you actually do have,
That, which is on the.
okay,
I just picked it up today.
so,
So,
I
yeah,
understand, so your professional engineer took did a professional job and put those onto a plan that,
he came out and spotted
okay, great.
the building. So he put them on the plan. They're there. Didn't have a chance to recopy that.
Understood.
Yeah, for tonight,
Appreciate it, yeah,
but it is based on the engineer.
understood.
That,
And Tara, in the case of receiving a plan like that, our engineer would typically review that, or staff would?
I reviewed this on a staff fault. So we typically don't send to the township engineer. But I will say, look, I looked it over briefly.
Yeah.
But I haven't put a good set of eyes on it.
Roger, did you have any questions?
Not at this time.
Walk me through this, Tara. I'm new to this. We don't defer. We both townships are involved in the entire process. At what point could it get contentious between Laycock's wishes and our wishes? And now, Mr. Smucker's caught in the middle, spending attorney fees, engineering fees. What does that look like? Can you walk me through that?
Sure. So in other situations where we cross a border, we have worked with the adjacent municipality. We've provided our comments. They provide theirs. This happens a lot with West Lampeter. So the applicant meets both comment letters and addresses them. We've worked with West Lampeter on a number of these with road improvements that were required or not required for given reasons. We have staff level communications.
So all concerns that you've laid out would be shared with.
They already have been,
And they have.
yes. I forwarded that review to Mr. Smucker and to Laycock Township all at the same time, prior to our planning commission meeting that this was heard at in January.
Have you had any public conversation with Laycock Township at all?
no,
Just let me confirm them.
this has gone to them.
Yeah.
They were waiting to see what this board is going to do relative to the deferral before we get into the planning commission. There's a planning commission meeting later on this month with Laycock Township, and that begins the review process. So I'm just asking the board, hey, two processes. Interview. A lot of times, don't think the public interest will be all that much proportionally greater served. The two processes, I understand Tara has some issues that she'd like to address. I think if she wishes, she can address those to the supervisors of Laycock or to the planning commission and make those comments directly. And she has some already, but that's.
Quick process question. So we have a request for deferral. Do we have to take action, affirmative or negative on that? Or is it just we're waiting for action, or can no action be taken?
You will need to take action on that. And if you decide that you deny the deferral, then Mr. Smucker will supply a full set of subdivision land development plans to the township for review.
So I will entertain a motion to defer if anyone wishes.
I'm inclined to make a motion to defer.
A motion by Mr. Gallagher to defer. Is there a second? Hearing no second.
I will second. I will second.
All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Gallagher to defer the plan to Upper Laycock with a second by Mr. Rutt. We'll try voice vote. We may have to do a roll call. All those in favor of deferral signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Three ayes, Mr. Gallagher, Mr. Thornton, and Mr. Rutt. All opposed? Aye. Chair votes aye. Motion is 3-2. The motion passes. We are deferred to Upper Lake Hub, or to Lake Hub. Moving on to item 7A, business sewer planning module resolution, goods mulch land development plan for that 172448 Old Philadelphia Pipe. Anyone here for this item?
This is a typical DEP resolution that's required. As the board's seen for many of them. As they'll be picking up the new business.
All right, is there a
Resolution for the sewer plan module. Mulch land development plan, 172448.
second? Motion by Corey, second one from Gallagher. Any public comment or comment? Hearing none. Neighbors signify by saying aye. Next, we have item 7B, Petersheim Stormwater Management Plan 24-12, 702 Martin Station Road. Is there anyone here for this item?
Mac Engineering. I'll be brief. This is a replacement of the existing structure. This is a very long drive. So the remaining letter from DMA.
So we have request for conditional approval based off of the December 12th DMA letter.
Motion to approve Petersheim Station Road, based on additional approval and, stormwater management plan based on the December 12th for DNA.
Motion by Mr. Meyer, second by Mr. Thornton. Any public comment? Favor signify by saying aye. Opposed or abstentions, the motion carries. Thank you. All right, we have item number 8A, potential zoning changes to promote a robust farm economy.
Mr. Chair, I think our Bergstrom's here.
Mr. Bergstrom is here. All right, we're going to take a quick pause and go back and give Mr. Bergstrom his reminder.
Hit the restroom.
You want us to wait for you?
Yeah, you got it. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Bergstrom.
Wow. Come on up.
My apologies for being late on the road.
So this is an award presented to Mr. Eric Bergstrom in recognition of and grateful appreciation for outstanding service to East St. Peter Township, serving on the East St. Peter Township Emergency Services Committee as a committee member, January 2021 to December 2024, including services as vice chair from January 21 to January 23, and as chairman from January 23 to January 2024, for a total of 4 years of service. Presented this 10th day of February 2025 by the East St. Peter Township Board of Supervisors. Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Appreciate your help. I just want to say Eric is a big help in being introduced to ESC for me, and just so I know what a dedicated community man he is, along with our other workers. But
There are a lot of guys out there,
I know.
a lot of people out there that deserve a lot more than this for the number of hours that they put in. Firefighters and volunteers, ambulance people, and that, look in my eyes, do what the community do and should do.
Yeah, thank you. We've got a lot of volunteers who serve this township. We appreciate your time. Hopefully we'll see you around. All right. So we will wait for Mr. Meyer to return from the break. We'll jump into the next slide. Feel free to stretch your legs a little. Okay, so we've got, 8A, and just as a point of reference, for some of our comments or lack of comments, we did meet an executive session with our attorney, prior to this to discuss some potential items. One of those, may impact, some zoning changes, which we have directed staff and our attorney to take a look at. We're hopeful that those will go forward very promptly. I don't foresee many board members making their own comments tonight. But I would love to hear from, members of the public who will come. It would be good probably to share your thoughts, with the board. Speaking for myself, generally, what I believe we should be doing and moving forward with is how do we promote a farm economy that isn't just a pretty farm for the tourists to look at, but also a farm economy where farmers can make money, work their land, and continue to grow things. That's what a farm is, and that's not just growing things in the field. That's a farm economy, including welding, making things, growing animals, harvesting animals. There's a full gamut of things that farmers today are doing on their farms in order to survive and thrive in a changing economy where the old traditional farming ways may not make enough revenue to justify staying on the farm. So, we're committed to making sure we preserve farms in this township. We've kept our urban growth boundary where it is without any changes. We've tried to focus development where we have existing infrastructure and not build out into farms. But then the secondary goal of that is how do we keep the farms robust and healthy and able to grow and give as much flexibility as we can to farmers to be able to stay on those farms. So those are some general comments, but I'd love if you have any comment on your thoughts on how we could better serve the farmers in this community. I would love if you step forward if you want to state your name for the record and then share your thoughts on what we could do to make changes to our zoning ordinance that would help promote farms and keep them a part of our local economy. So any member of the public can weigh in and share what you want to share. Go ahead.
My name is John Lewis, 2117 Rockdale Road. I take it that much of this is a result of the Jesse Smucker issue that has come before the zoning hearing board. And so the attorneys have met. Apparently there were some concerns. Can you share what those concerns are that the attorneys have?
So I can't speak to the specific concerns of the attorneys. I know as a township, what we're wanting to make sure happens is all of our residents are heard in the process. There is an ongoing process with our zoning hearing board, which is separate. But I know we are also looking at what changes we can make to our zoning overall that could be more accommodating to our farmers, but also protect the interests of the neighbors of those farmers.
Well, I know the attorney for Mr. Smucker had indicated that some of the ordinances are in violation of the state rules, state laws, some regulatory laws. So there's going to have to be some balance between this, I take it. Is that a fair statement?
Any interpretation of any state laws will happen by someone who is not me.
Someone who's what?
Someone who is not me. So interpretation of state rules will happen at the state level, appropriate area of jurisdiction. What this board can do in the future would be to look at our specific zoning ordinance and what changes we could make that could make it remove some of the restrictions we currently have.
Well, I think, from my perspective, I disagree with the fact that there needs to be some changes made. I just ask that we do so while helping the agricultural community. That's certainly important, but also respecting the residential community that surrounds it, because it affects their quality of life as well. And as long as you're able to make both of those work, I think you're going to be, in good shape. So there's some sensitivity to that.
Appreciate that. And The process for any zoning change, there would be public meetings and public hearings, and everyone would be able to speak to any change that would come. So you'd be able to see any changes that are proposed and give comment on those.
Do you have any idea of the time frame it's going to take for this to happen, for you to, for the board to come up with a zoning change? And I mentioned that because right now, Mr. Smucker is under violation, and he's kind of treading water, waiting to see, you know, is he going to be held liable for that? Or do we change the zoning ordinance to work with him?
Can't speak to any,
Time it takes to do this.
I can't speak to any future changes, but I can say we can point back to previous zoning changes we've made. And the last zoning change we made, I believe, was off of 340 with Mill Creek Fence property. Approximately how long for that specific zoning change did it take from draft to approval of the zoning change?
From final draft to approval, 3 months.
So final draft to approval was about 3 months. Approximately how long did it take for them to, us, the board, for a final draft to be created from when we first started the?
That was about another 3 months.
So the most recent zoning change we made, anywhere from 3 to 6 months.
So I guess I just didn't know if his particular situation was going to be put on hold pending a resolution of any changes that may happen here. Do we know that, or is that a zoning hearing board issue that they're going to have to do?
That's a zoning hearing board issue in between the attorneys to talk about.
Okay. Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Yes, ma'am.
One answer. I live at 2103 Rockville. Been there for 59 years. And I just like to kind of reiterate what John said. We really want Jesse to thrive and succeed. He's a good neighbor. But we also don't want a Stafford of Kissel Hill across the street. It's a little overwhelming. So I hope that when the township reaches an accommodation, that you take into consideration both his success and our quality of life. And I do appreciate all the work and all the city you people do. Thank you.
Thank you.
And 675 Strasburg Pike. So, I grew up on a farm, also being from the perspective where I made and sold crafts to the general public. And I was fortunate back in those days not to have restrictions that cost more than what would have made those crafts even worth selling. So we really need, and now I'm at almost the other perspective of being one of those buyers. So I can see both points, but I really do have to stress that these people on their farms that they grew up on and working hard to do something good for the public, they need to be considered that sometimes they're really on a shoestring budget. My parents were very poor when I grew up, and I didn't have to have a permit just to have a roadside stand. And I didn't have to have a permit to go help work at a neighbor's farm. So some of these regulations become very costly very quick for somebody that just wants to be responsible of a farm operated a lot like it was decades ago. So it really needs to be taken into consideration that we don't stringly ourselves by overregulation and too much costs. I don't know how to put it on the rules. I would think of this more, but you really need to be able to put yourselves in their shoes. And there was a really big disconnect between someone that grew up on a farm, very poor, to someone that grew up. I didn't grow up in Lancaster City or Philadelphia, so I'm not sure what that looks like growing up. Yeah, that's where I come from.
Thank you, Mr. Joe.
Have to comment even if, with the hearing thing.
You can comment if you would like.
Did you see a copy of the paper?
So I wouldn't, we,
I don't think
yeah,
you can.
yeah, well, I don't think you need to hand those out at this point, but I would say keep your comments more general, might be better.
That's fine. Yeah, I mean, I have just a smoker to go with the roadside market there. Like with Sanchez, as far as the ag economy these days, it's still different than it was 20 years ago. So I guess for me, we see the development creeping in. We're gonna get 500 new neighbors down the road from us. Big concern to us. But then for us, to keep the farms going, we're gonna need a wedge on it. We don't have dairy there. We don't really want to put a big chicken house up or anything like that. And we really love growing stuff, serving the public. And I think it's educational for the community to be able to come out and see where the stuff is grown. That's very much a trend these days. So yeah, that's, we appreciate your concern on the matter. And for us, we would like to resolve it with the ordinance amendment much rather than just taking an attorney. It's not fun. We weren't sure what happened with we tried taking this route in August. I don't know. Do you have any input on that? Is it confidential?
I don't think we have any input at this point, but I would agree with your sentiments.
Because we were concerned about it, because we tried taking this route in August, it cost us a lot of money. And now we're taking a route we would have preferred to take originally. We didn't want the hearing meeting. We were told we had to. Township hired an attorney. We had to hire an attorney, not the way we wanted to do it. Just to sell produce to the community. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Yes, sir.
Jim Downer, Clearview Road. Just a quick comment on, I appreciate that you stuck with ag zoning and the urban growth boundary. I would like to ask a question concerning the property at the northeast corner of Rockville Bowman Road. I think it's like a 15-acre field zone ag. It is included in your urban growth boundary. Would there be any consideration to move that boundary line to exclude that 15-acre ag zone?
That property is not within the urban growth area.
Oh, okay.
Right on the edge.
At some point that had been included. So this is,
It hasn't included since I've been here.
There are, I've seen different ads for, I don't know if that's parcel or a similar one saying, hey, come with ideas to build on it, but the township has never entertained any discussion that I'm aware of in the affirmative to build it out.
I mean, the encroachment is hard. So our farm is on Clearview Road, and what was just said makes a lot of sense how farming has changed. My wife and I dairy farmed for 25 years. We sold our cows 6 years ago. And a lot has changed since then. I don't know that a young person would be able to farm in the manner that I did. So you're seeing agriculture definitely changing. But the encroachment of the heavy traffic, the encroachment of onto ag just makes it significantly more difficult to do farming.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Dangler. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Steve Smucker, 47 Rock. I would just encourage you guys
to somehow meet here. I think it's time that we give the farmers a little bit of space. I guess the farmers are getting constant pressure. There's new developments coming up. There's farms joining developments, and I think the farmer needs to be considered. There's a lot of people moving in from out of town, and Lancaster County is really a special place, and I think we need to give the farmers try to come up with a plan that gives them some alternative ways of making it. That's all I need to say.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Smart. Any other comments? Any comments from the board? Well, I appreciate your comments. This is really helpful for the board to hear, members of the public. I keep an eye on the website. If there's any future zoning amendments that come forward, they'll be posted there, and hopefully if you see any, you'll come out to meetings and share your thoughts on those. We've seen more amendments come through over the last several years. I know in some townships, it's the practice of, and even in ours, it's been in the past of you pass a zoning amendment and then you wait 20 years or 30 years and then update it again. Our staff has worked a lot harder, and I know our board has done more efforts to try to update our zoning ordinance on a more regular basis. Violations are a way to let us know that we either are doing it right or we're doing it wrong. But if we're constantly having to issue violations, and that's a sign that we should look at it and say, are we doing it correctly? And so our goal is to use that data to figure out where in our zoning we need to make adjustments and make more small adjustments as we go forward. And I hope we can do that. And so stay involved in that process. Keep an eye on our website. And your voices do matter. I appreciate you all coming tonight and sharing your thoughts.
Are these deliberations public, or are these deliberations?
See, any zoning changes are all public. Anything that has to do with litigation or pending litigation, stuff before the zoning hearing board would meet some of that criteria. That and any personnel changes are the only times we're allowed to meet as a board behind closed doors. So we're not even allowed, I can't take two of them out for lunch and talk about this, even anything we talk about tonight. So it's all of our deliberations at a board level are designed to be in public so everyone can see. Usually this meeting room is empty. All our meetings are on YouTube. So if you're really bored and need to sleep, feel free to watch some of our back zoning zoning discussions and Board of Supervisor meetings.
Good. Cure the insomnia. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next item 8B, housing work group meeting. Carrie, give us a quick update on this.
So the invitation has been sent out to the groups and organizations in the county and in the township who are dealing with homelessness and housing situations.
Someone dropped a phone. Here we go. Awesome. A few minutes. Get it together, yeah. Good spot, Carol.
Invitation has been sent out. It is scheduled for February 24th. We are getting great responses, and so 18%. So I know that Roger and Mike are both wanted to attend, so keep it at the number of supervisors.
Supervisors will limit to 2, so we'll count as a public meeting. All right, any comments on that? Supervisors, items we should bring up. Now we move on to item 9A, amendment to the nuisance hotel ordinance. Carrie, you want to give us a brief update on that?
Sure, you've seen this in draft form, and this is to increase the days from 60 to 90 with 3 references. And then also setting the trigger point, 7 occurrences within a year time frame. So this is a public hearing to adopt the change in ordinance. Then, as you heard last time at your last meeting, this was something that the chief of police requested, and under staff agrees with moving forward with.
You need to open the public hearing. All right, we'll formally open the public hearing regarding the amendment to the nuisance hotel ordinance. And public comment. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing. Second. Motion second by Mr. Thornton and Mr. Gallagher. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'll entertain a motion to adopt the nuisance hotel ordinance as amended.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. Thornton, second by Mr. Gallagher. Any public comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? We have a new hotel nuisance ordinance. All right, item 9B, resolution regarding escalator clause for price adjustments of bituminous materials bidding.
So this is every year for the last 2 years, and this is so bidders on our road projects do not have to account for the possibility of an increase when they are putting together their bids. And so therefore, last year we got a significantly lower bid because they didn't have to account for that, and they were in the area doing other work. We are putting out, future, you'll see 2 options in the bids. One for the roadways that we have discussed at the forecast meeting, and then another set that includes 2 other roadways. Last year, you'll recall that because the bids came in so low, we sent out a second bid option, and we were able to do more roadways last year.
Okay. There is a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
Make a motion to approve the resolution regarding the escalator clause for price adjustment of bituminous material bidding.
First by Mr. Meyer, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Rutt. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Motion passes. Next, we have item 9C, appointment to the zoning hearing board, term ending 11/12/2027.
Yes, you have 2, for lack of better word, applications before you, resumes before you. One from Mr. Bennett and one from Mr. Messina. So Mr. Bennett is an attorney. Mr. Messina is resident of the area that previously served in New York on an architecture and community appearance board.
Looks like we've got 2 folks. I have not had a chance to meet or talk with Mr. Messina yet. I have had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Kenneth. I think he would be a good one, and it's good to have another application in our hands for other potential folks. So we'll reach out to whoever doesn't make it tonight and try to keep them involved.
Yeah, I was thinking Mr. Messina might be a good future planning commission candidate, so or if another zoning hearing board position opens up, could be good for that as well, so.
All right. Is there any preference? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to appoint Mr. Ed Kennett to the zoning hearing board open position, the term ending November 12, 2027.
Moved by Mr. Thornton, second by Mr. Meyer. Public discussion, comment?
I would say the same. I really want to keep Messina and his experience in mind for other committee positions we need in the board needs.
I will try to make a point to reach out and get to know people. All right, we'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed and abstentions? Motion passes. Item 10, managers report.
So before you is a draft of a change to the township park regulations so that the recreation program can move forward without violating those regulations. For instance, no amplified sound. Well, we have movies in the park now, so that's a problem. No, after dusk entry to the park. Again, we have movies in the park. We had, food service at the park for the fall festival, if I remember correctly. So there's a number of items that we broke the rules on as we started our recreation program, and we'd like to continue to do that. And so we'd like to leave it at the township manager or assistant manager discretion.
How does CV baseball go in there? Because we have an exception for them that they override a reservation coming in online. Are they included in this resolution?
We have a separate agreement with them, Roger, that has that specific language in it.
Okay, thanks.
Does that also apply to them for after dark activities?
It does, because they actually pay for the electric for the lights at the ball fields.
Hear the clink of those bats every night in the summer and love it. Might keep me awake a little bit sometimes. Kids are playing baseball. So any action on this tonight or just a?
You know, this is just for your review. Any comments, please forward them. But we'll look to have this at your next meeting. If you're okay with me moving on. CV, we did communicate with CV School District after the board's last meeting and indicated the board's intention to move forward with, or in conjunction with CV School District for Prince Field on that. We were also aware that the Horseshoe Road lights were not functioning correctly, so we did have our contractor go out there. They did replace a module within those systems, and they are at this point functioning again. So just waiting to hear back from CV on the Fritz flashing lights and whether or not we can move forward with getting this installed, designed and installed with a shared cost agreement.
Any questions for Chair? Anything came up? Any public comment remaining? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Meyer, is there a second?
And how, I'm new to all this, but Jesse Smucker, what is he trying to do? Like, does he now have a farm stand and he's trying to enlarge it or sell property? Is that what this is all about?
Do a quick Google search on it.
All right.
Let's put it that way. All right, we have motion is second. By saying aye. The meeting is adjourned.